Welcome to the day 3 of SDPI's 24th Sustainable Development Conference. The theme of this year's conference is Beyond Pandemic, Leaving No One Behind. You are here at one of the concurrent sessions of day 3 on building forward better amidst recovery from pandemic. Our panel for today is Mr. Shoaib Sultan Khan, Chairman, Rural Support Programs Network. Mr. Khan has received many prestigious awards and recognitions of his services in the social sector, including Nishan-e-Imtiaz, the highest civilian award in Pakistan, Sitare-Imtiaz, Sitare-Isar for earthquake work, and Hilal-Imtiaz, United Nations Environment Program Global 500 Award, the World Conservation Medal by the Duke of Edinburgh, and the list goes on. We are truly honored to have him here with us today. Dr. Masuma Hasan is Chairperson of the Pakistan Institute of National Affairs and President of the Board of Governors of Aurat Foundation. She was the Cabinet Secretary of Pakistan, a permanent representative of Pakistan to all UN institutions in Vienna, Ambassador to Austria, Slovenia, and Slovakia. And she's also a member of the Board of Governors of SDPI. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us here today. Our third panelist is Ms. Arifa Khalid Pervez. She'll join us shortly. She's a former member of National Assembly and member of the Punjab Assembly. She obtained her degree of MSc from College of Home Economics, Lahore, and completed her master's in international policy and practice in 2005. She has many papers and research to her credit. Our moderator for today is Dr. Abid Suleri, Executive Director, SDPI. And before I hand over the session to Dr. Abid, there are a few quick housekeeping rules for our speakers and our audience to ensure smooth proceeding for all of us. Our speakers are requested to keep their microphones off when they are not speaking to ensure good audio quality for everyone, and are encouraged to switch on their cameras, especially when they are speaking, if your network allows to do that without any disruption. We also invite questions from our audience and colleagues. Please feel free to leave them in the question and answer box on the right side. Speakers are requested to keep the chat box open in the window, and you can also indicate that you want to speak by clicking the raise hand tab on the right side of the chat window. This is all from my side, and I would now request Dr. Abid Suleri to formally initiate the discussion. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, depending from where you have logged into our Facebook live page, to our SCTV live streaming, and those of you who are following us on this Zoom link. It's a great pleasure to honor two of my mentors today, Mr. Shoaib Sultan Khan and Dr. Masuma Hasan. And my colleague Aisha, she forgot to mention that Mr. Shoaib Sultan Khan is also one of the founder directors of SDPI. So we have two former board members and who are joining us today.
Abid, you are looking very young. I didn't recognize you.
Thank you. Thank you. And today, on the third day of this session, which our annual conference that we are convening this year with the title Beyond Pandemics, Leaving No One Behind. We really wanted to have discussion with the two of the gurus of development sector, public policy making sector, and try to understand that how we can build forward better. Building back better perhaps now is gone. So now we have to think of building forward better in a new normal that we have to live with, Omicron, and who knows that which will be the next variant. And of course, the changing regional situation that keeps on affecting Pakistan's socio-economic landscape. So I'll begin with the Shoaib Sultan Khan Sahab. We'll have a little conversation, both of the panelists, esteemed panelists here, Shoaib Sultan Khan Sahab and Dr. Masuma Hasan Sahiba. And then, of course, we will also take online questions, which will be posted either on Facebook page or on this. So, Shoaib Sahab, talking to you, you see, when we switch on our televisions from 7 to 11 p.m., most of the time, the story of Pakistan that one gets to hear is almost doom and gloom. And within that doom and gloom, we really wanted to see that where is any ray of hope. And I know I'm asking this question particularly to you because you believed in agency of individuals. You believe in empowering individuals. मौसम अगर आप अपना माइक बंद कर लें प्लीज. So you believe in agency of individuals and empowering individuals, and do you think that the philosophy of empowering individuals is still relevant today in the current socio-economic context?
Abid, what would you like me? I mean, I thought that maybe I might make a presentation.
That would be equally better. We can have a scene setting from you, and then of course
a PowerPoint presentation and
right.
What has been done, what we are doing, and what will be the way forward. And then I think probably there will be much more meaningful questions from you.
That would be great. That would be great.
Sharing. Please turn on the sharing. Sharing is
Please turn on sharing. Amjad Saab, can you share? Turn on sharing.
Adnan, if you can allow him to share his screen, please.
Sir, your screen is visible.
Okay. So let me first just recapitulate briefly as to what rural support programs, rural support network did. As you know, the network has about 10 members, and we are already in about 149 districts out of 156. And you were saying that is it still the concept that people can be empowered? Is it still alive? Well, we have 55 million people organized this, and as you'll see that what we have done is a 3-tier community institutions. And the reason was that the two pillars of a state, like the administrative pillar from President to Patwari, or the political pillar from the National Assembly to Union Council, they don't have the access to each and every household, especially in the poor. So this is what I learned from my own mentor of the Hamid Khan, that you have to foster a third pillar, which he used to call the socio-economic pillar or social pillar. And that's what we have done over the last 40 years. We have now over 500,000 community organizations federated into over 42,000 village organizations, and then about 2,500, which is almost 50% of the union councils. We call them local support organization. Now, our initial response to COVID, basically, NCOC was very happy that they asked us to collaborate. And that's what we did. Almost 69,000 community institutions got involved in 126 districts. And we established task forces, and almost 400,000 households were involved. And in fact, 2 of our people, women, got even a prize from the president, from the prime minister. This collaboration was very good between NCOC, provincial and district administration, and the rural support programs. And you will see that the main work was being done by community activists, almost 8,000 of them. So these institutions work through SDPI, Sindh government, PIIA, World Bank, and over 10,000 local support organizations, and 5 million people benefited from it. And these are all details. I mean, I can leave it to those who want to. So what we learned from this collaboration with NCOC, that rural areas, of course, lacked awareness about SOPs in general. And I'm only talking of the rural areas. I have no presence or no knowledge about the urban. So RSP facilitation did that. Facilities, testing facilities were very poor in rural Balochistan, especially the TTQ was not possible. Many district healths had no training material. Provincial and district authorities appreciated RSP facilitation, and that's why we were able to work all that. And what I'm saying that when COVID is not over, as you very rightly pointed out, and I'm saying that RSPs have the scale and capacity to facilitate government in improving public services to poor rural communities. This needs to be formalized. So that's what we have done and what we are offering government to do it. And now I will come to your next question. What is the way forward as far as we are concerned? What will be your presentation?
Thank you very much, Shoaib Sahab, for not only apprising what RSPN has been doing in COVID-19, but also what it can. Yes, sir.
Let me tell you what is the way forward that we are thinking about. Now, what are the highlights of the program that we are suggesting for forward going? And that is impacting poverty in SDGs for Pakistan's rural poor in 2,300 union councils, where we have almost 100% presence. This I need not repeat. You all know country's existing socio-economic situation. Now, what we are proposing is that the existing proven social mobilization approach, through it leveraging social capital or 2,300 community institutions at the UC level under various programs sponsored by federal and provincial governments. And to contribute in achieving SDGs 1, 3, 4, 6, and 8 in 2,300 rural union councils with community institutions, leading to increase in incomes and reduce poverty. Now that's what what we are proposing, that collaboration with people, because mainly, you know, programs like these are that unless you make it people-centric, you can't really achieve much. If you are wanting to achieve SDGs, it has to be people-centric. And if this is done, then what we are saying is that in terms of the SDG 1, monthly income will increase by 50%, indicators to 30% households graduating from lowest to upper poverty. And SDG 8, decent economic growth, indicators 75% target households will have increased assets or expanded business through CIF. And SDG 3, good health and good quality education, clean water, 30% increase in access to safe drinking water, 25% increase in Panta-3 coverage of children 0 to 23 months, 40% households adopt solid waste disposal methods, specific dumping, 30% additional out-of-school children enrolled in primary. Project outputs based on community plans, revitalizing and strengthening multi-tiered community institutions. Output 2 is contribute to SDGs through interventions in health, education, water, sanitation, and women's rights. And output 3, employment creation, productive asset building, and indicative budget. That's only about 10 billion every year for 3 years. RSPN offers to facilitate planning ministry, and we have even drafted a PC1 for them. So let's hope that what happens. That's what I had to offer about way forward. Thank you, Abid.
Thank you, Shoaib Sahab. I'll come to you after we rope in Dr. Masuma Hasan in this conversation. Welcome, Dr. Masuma. Shoaib Saab's last slide, it really intrigued me. Capacity building of Planning Commission if they require support in developing a PC1. And obviously, I wanted to ask from you other questions, but do you comment on this deteriorating, quote unquote, deteriorating standard of our bureaucrats and officials, and in the context of building forward better, any suggestion from you how we can actually build capacity of our policy makers, especially in the civil services? I know that Dr. Ishrat Hussain, he gave a very comprehensive formula, 4 clusters, and categorizing the civil servants in those 4 clusters, but it could never got implemented except for the office group, the secretariat group. So any comment from you, and then I'll come with my next question.
Abid, I have no comments.
No, from Dr. Masuma.
We shall go to Masuma.
Yeah, this question was for Dr. Masuma. Dr. Sava, you are mute. Yes, please.
Abid, sorry, I didn't really, your voice is cutting. Did you ask me how we can improve the capacity building of civil servants?
Yeah, because the last slide of Shoaib Sultan Khan Sahab, where RSPN has very generously offered that they can even prepare a PC1 for Planning Commission. So that actually intrigues me, that, and I know for the fact that there are many such funders and developers in the Multilateral Institute as well, who keep on coming and offering that they can prepare a PC1 for us if government of Pakistan can't do it. So I was just asking you about this quote unquote deterioration in the capacity of civil services. It was never in your times when you were leading the game. So just wanted to ask your comment on it.
No, Abid, but I must read that I won't be that presumptuous that they don't have the capacity to build PC. We just tried to facilitate that, but to tell you, even that didn't work. So I leave it to Masuma now.
Well, I think what Shoaib Sultan Sahab has proposed about the PC1, I hope it goes through and it is accepted, and I'm sure the outcome will be brilliant. But you know, when you talk about deterioration in the working of the civil service, in the working of officials or officers from the grassroots right up to the top, I think one should look at it a little holistically. It is not just the civil services which are not functioning according to the way in which we would want them to. I think there really has been a general deterioration. And a great deal of it, as I see it, is what has unfortunately emerged as as a dysfunctional link between the government in power and the bureaucracy. I have a feeling that governments in power do not really honor the rules and the conventions which have been developed over the last 70 years. no years, in fact. No matter which government was in power, some of them were good, some of them were bad, many of them were considered corrupt, some were considered less corrupt. There were allegations both ways. But some conventions of governance did emerge. And I feel that during the last few years, those conventions have not been honored. And that is why the bureaucracy, I think, is on the back foot. But as I said, and so far as capacity building is concerned, you know, if you are referring to the content of training institutions programs, then it is very necessary that they should be pulled out of the higher echelons and taken to the grassroots. The kind of work that Shoaib Sultan Khan Saab does, I feel that most bureaucrats, especially officers at the highest level, are not really in touch with the realities to which he has referred. And as I was telling Shoaib Saab a little while ago, asking him, why is it necessary to have mega projects? Why is it necessary to have grand projects? Why is it necessary to spend so much, which part of which we don't know where the money goes because of the sheer size of those projects? When so much can be done on the models which were built for grassroots work and the kind of references that Shoaib Saab has made. So far, I want to add a word also, Abid, about this statement you made about gloom and doom on the television every day. There is a lot of sensationalism on the TV, and that is true all over the world, perhaps a lot more in our country. But I don't see that gloom the way that most people do, because I think that there is a lot of potential and there is a lot of talent among the younger people. The young people I work with, and I have no experience of working in the rural areas, but the young people I work with, my own research staff in my institutions, the young activists of Aurat Foundation, they are talented, they are innovative, they have the ability to interact with people as they should be. But in a city like Karachi, I don't know about Islamabad, as I've always found it not a very interesting city. But in a city like Karachi, there is so much talent, so many young people on the street, so many young people taking up courses, so many young people referring to what are really the nitty-gritty of the problems of our country. So far as the deterioration in the civil services is concerned, I think it should be looked at in a holistic way. Everything has deteriorated, not just the civil service.
Shoaib Sahab, thank you very much, Dr. Saba. Shoaib Sahab, Prime Minister would be in Peshawar today and launching a Pakistan card. And the idea is that all the previous initiatives, those were taken under social protection program, health card and education card and Kisan card, and all of them should be merged in one single instrument to help the lower income earners. Now, I remember that you always believed in poverty eradication through community empowerment. And I wanted to know that how you already shown some slides, but if you can link that some of the work that the government is trying to do under its social protection programs, how it can actually be linked with the community mobilization. So if I am a holder of Pakistan card or a few others, so can government simultaneously, with the help of RSPN or with the help of other organizations, Akhuvat, PPF, and there are many others who are doing good work at grassroots level. So can they actually be linked with social mobilization? And especially it's tackling urban poverty. आप म्यूट हैं शोएब सर.
No, as I mentioned earlier, Abid, that about urban areas, of course, I wouldn't be able to say much. But when we talk of the rural areas, and we talk of the rural poor, after all, one should learn from past experience instead of going in for new things and reinventing the wheel. I mean, that's what Dr. Hamid Khan always used to tell me when he said, don't try to be a reformer because only prophets can be reformers. And don't try to invent. Inventions are very rare. So I said, then what should I do? And he said, be a copycat. See what has succeeded. If you are thinking of poverty, if you are thinking of welfare of the rural poor, then see how countries which have been able to now rid countries of poverty. So I don't think we do that. Now this whole social protection program that has been launched, and billions of rupees have been spent. Now where is it going to take us? I mean, by giving 2,000 rupees a month, poor families, you think they will get out of poverty? They will not. And these ancillary programs like the health card and this, that, and all the others. I mean, the question is how these are being implemented. So, if I had my way, I would, of course, say that, look, these 8 million rural households which are organized, and I mentioned over 500,000 community organizations, and almost 50% of the LSOs at the Union Council level, they are willing to collaborate, they are willing to help government and help any program to be implemented. But I'm sorry to say, they have not even bothered to take note of it, that there is such a huge structure available. So, I don't know, I mean, when this social protection, especially Benazir Income Support Program was launched, you might remember, donors and all others used to give the example of Brazil. And I don't know whether you have seen this in The Economist, some of the last few issues that I have seen. They're talking about Brazil, that for 18 years, they did social protection with 30 million. And then suddenly they found there's not money to do that. And what has happened? They said that those people are on the street. So you're very right. If they would like to, I mean, they're not saying that they should collaborate with the RSPN or Rural Support Program. But these are institutions of the people. They should not be shy of collaborating with them. But as I mentioned to you, unfortunately, I mean, when I got Nishan-e-Imtiaz, I must tell you that I got it because Imran Khan used to visit RSP very often in the 80s, and he was very impressed by it. And in 2004, when he became MNA and got a development grant, as MNOs used to get, he came to me and he said that, would you help in implementing a development program? And I said, well, I can't help you that way, but if you really want to do it, take me to Miyawali, wherever you want to do it. And he took me there, and fortunately, National Rural Support Program was working in the adjoining district, so we just demonstrated what can be done. And it was very successful. And later on, the government of Punjab came up with a bigger program, and they also asked us to implement that. So he had that. And as soon as I became Prime Minister and gave me the Nishan-e-Imtiaz. But I was not waiting for Nishan-e-Imtiaz, because he had also promised that he will make my program as his first program. Now, for reasons which he knows best, and of course I can well understand, they went in for this social protection thing. So, to answer your question, I'm saying, well, we are very willing, but if somebody has to come and approach us and tell us whether they would like to make use of these 8 million households that we have organized.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I'll also welcome our third panelist, Ms. Arifa Khalid, who has joined us from Washington. Arifa, I'll come to you later so that you can get a sense of what is being discussed. I'll come to Dr. Masuma Hasan Sahaba. My main question is about, as you are also chairperson of Pakistan Institute of International Affairs, and how the emerging regional developments, they are affecting Pakistan's socio-economic situation, especially some of the happenings in Afghanistan. But there was an online question as well, and that is a comment on our earlier question. So they say that it's not about the capacity of civil servants. Civil servants, they have got an indifferent attitude, and all they want to do is flow with the, go with the flow. Flow with the row. So maybe you like to comment on it, and then the situation of Afghanistan, of this region, and some of the things, socio-economic things that we are observing today. You are mute, Dr. Masuma.
Can you hear me, Abid? Okay. You know, I don't really agree that the civil servants just go with the flow of the thing. You know, one deals with many, many civil servants. I mean, what do you call a civil servant? A civil servant is not just the secretary of a ministry. A civil servant is also a deputy commissioner. A civil servant is also an assistant commissioner. A civil servant is also a police officer. All these people who work within the larger civil service of the country, they attend to very difficult tasks, and it's very easy to criticize, but try to be in their shoes and do the work which they're doing. And you know, even at the grassroots levels, even at the district levels, there are some very fine district officers. There are some very fine deputy commissioners, and they deal with very difficult circumstances within their districts. They have to balance various forces. They have to create an equilibrium between various interests. They have to bring some sense of justice. So it is not true. I mean, a civil servant is not just the secretary of the institute sitting in Islam, of the government sitting in Islamabad. They work at various levels, and if there is any modicum of stability in the country, it is because of the work which they do. So I mean, there is this general impression that that is what civil servants are like, but you know, that is not, I would not go along with that. What was your second? The regional situation. The regional situation is, you know, really very challenging for Pakistan at present, especially after what has happened in Afghanistan. And as you know, as you would know, Pakistan is one country which is very fervently advocating the cause of the Taliban, of the Afghan Taliban, what has happened in Afghanistan. And what has happened in Afghanistan is really a reality. It's the stance taken by other countries like the United States or the United Kingdom or the European Union is a little, I mean, one can understand their concerns, but then you see they are situated thousands and thousands of miles away from Afghanistan or from our region. So they are not really affected by what has happened in Afghanistan lately because they are so far away. But Afghanistan is on our border. And so it really makes sense to engage with the Taliban. However, the Taliban, I think, will continue more or less according to what their baseline or their basic beliefs are. And they may change a little bit. They say they have changed a little bit, but the reports coming from Afghanistan are not really so encouraging. And, so far as COVID is concerned, has to do post-COVID to bring stability in our country, to carry the country forward, is that one must look to what has happened to women during COVID. We have statistics and we have figures and we have studies which show that there has been an enormous increase in domestic violence during COVID. The advanced countries, like some countries in the European Union, they have established lines to which women could access when they were being tortured or when they were being attacked or when they were being domestically abused. And these countries also provided shelters for these women. But in Pakistan, that has not happened. And that has not happened because there are no such helplines. Women are on the sidelines, and the worst sufferers, because those who had careers have lost their careers. Those who were especially home-based workers can no longer earn their livelihood because the work factories have closed down. Women who used to work in the factories are no longer earning. So the way forward for that is that the government, all governments, whether they're provincial or federal, must provide some kind of protection to these women so that they are not domestically abused in the future. They are, Abid, not only domestically abused, they are also abused on the streets. And that is the reason for that is the compromises which the government has made with extremist forces, extremist parties. That has created a fear, an atmosphere for people, for patriarchal extremism and so कहते हैं ना, violence against women, which Aurat Foundation has been fighting since 1986. So far as the region is concerned, coming back to the region, sorry for this diversion. So far as the region is concerned, we have offered a lot of aid to Afghanistan, but we are not so well off economically ourselves. We have sent them money, we have sent them food, we are willing to open our route via Pakistan if the Indians want to send humanitarian aid. But the point is that Pakistan itself is doing rather badly economically. And so how sensible it is to keep pouring money into Afghanistan when we are so short of funds ourselves.
Thank you, Dr. Saba, and that brings me to Ms. Arifa Khalid. Arifa, as was introduced, she has served as an MPA, then an MNA, and currently she's based in Washington. She's running her own think tank there. So Arifa, I just wanted to get some flavor of mood of US opinion makers, US policy makers about Pakistan on the issue of Afghanistan, and also this very heinous and unfortunate incident that happened in Sialkot a couple of days ago. So can you apprise us about some of the reactions, how in US we are being perceived right now with the people that you interact?
Thank you very much, Mr. Abid Suleri. You have been always very kind, and I think Yes, first of all, I want to appreciate SDPI because this was my first platform in 2008 when you included me in your one of the programs in Nepal, and I learned a lot from you, and then it continued. So thank you so much for inviting me again today. I was prepared about some other questions, but this is new, and anyway, I have to answer as you asked. So basically, I think that America wanted inclusive government, as you know, in Afghanistan, and the acceptability of Taliban's government is obviously not there. So the main thing is that still they have the negotiations with them and they meet them in Doha and other places. They definitely want that there should be an emphasis on women rights, because I think that when we are in Pakistan, as I work there, we sometimes don't understand that how important it is for West that women are treated equally. The problem is when we are in Pakistan, we say, oh, that example in West or whatever, you know, there happened this or those things happens over there in West too. But that's not the answer. The answer is about the whole country, which is now going through a different phase, and women education, women health, everything is extremely important. And while we are also facing this borderless crisis of pandemic, which is now Omicron is there and it's highly mutated. And as Mr. Tedro of WHO said, that basically that, virus vaccine equity is not charity. So how the Afghan government is going to make sure that it is reaching everyone, how are they going to give a support system, the storage, the facilities, it's a kind of long process. It's not that the shipment has reached your port and, it is given to everyone. So that is there too. And people are suffering hunger, famine, poverty. Women, they are, the way they are shown here, are in a very bad shape. So I think that there is a big challenge. And of course, Pakistan is trying whatever they can. But the thing is that until and unless there is an inclusive government, to me, I feel that it doesn't.
But Arifa, sorry for interruption. The people with whom you interact, don't you realize that we are trying to punish the Afghan people, the intended beneficiaries? The West is, of course, trying to protect for their rights through inclusive government, but by not providing them humanitarian assistance, aren't we punishing those people, those innocent people as well?
I would say that as UN is there and there is some support going, there are some funding going, but yes, there was a need. The thing is that it all collapsed in a very short time. And this region had some problems. They were always there, but I mean, for how long? I would say for how long US could have stayed there, because even if they pulled out after 3 years or or longer period, it would have been still the same. So the problem is not solved like this, but I think there is a need of more solid and concrete negotiations and more. We need to meet the leaders more and make them understand that is the world.
Thank you. I got your response. Dr. Masuma will come to you about gender inclusive development, but first I'm going to Shoaib Sultan Sab. So Shoaib Sab, when you started your work, it was not always that the governments they were taking complete ownership of it, but you kept on doing whatever you could through various rural support organizations. And again, it's about community mobilization, and it's about giving them realization that they can solve their own problems. So in our previous round of questions, we were talking of urban poverty. But what about rural poverty? Let's say that if many of the schemes that governments, not only this government, but other governments that are initiating in social protection, they don't reach to the far-flung areas, the rural areas of Pakistan. So any ray of hope that you can share with us, what can be done there if, for example, government doesn't merge or doesn't take this community mobilization along with its social protection programs?
No, I must tell you that I'm a great optimist. And when I see what rural people, especially women, because when UN asked me to take lessons from RSP to South Asia, you will be surprised that my greatest success was in India, in Uttar Pradesh, where almost 11 million women got organized. And because the state government fully supported the program. So I find that the organized women themselves are doing a lot. I mean, even COVID also, I showed you that how they really tackle this problem. The only thing that I'm sort of basically suggesting that instead of giving 24,000 rupees at 2,000 rupees a month, or now because of COVID, they just increased it to 12,000, but again, they will revert to 2,000 or 1,000. That does not help. Only thing is that this delivery of money, which you already have, the billions and billions which is being given, just sit down with the poor. And you can, because they are organized now. It's quite easy to sit down with them and ask them, what is their capacity to improve their livelihood? And you know, they all, I mean, over these 40 years, God knows how many millions. If I take India also, I mean, we have the experience of almost 15 to 20 million, nearly a crore and a half rural people who say that, yes, we can do, and we can do it this way. And obviously, when you ask them that what is the obstacle, that's the main thing. But then they come up with a very affordable amount. I mean, this 24,000 rupees a year is a very affordable amount to really get out of poverty, to graduate out of poverty in 2-3 years. So that's all that I'm saying. And they are really, I mean, for example, all the programs, you'll be surprised that our most successful program, and I was telling Masuma, is in Sindh, which is supposed to be a very bad government and all that. But since 2009, government has given me money to what we call Community Investment Fund, which is basically a revolving fund. We give the money to do what they are saying they will do, and they will earn, and they will return it, and then they will take it again. So I'm hopeful. So one day somebody will realize that it can be done this way. But the only regret is that it can be done. I mean, the money is there. I mean, none of the government, I mean, this must go to the credit of Prime Minister Imran Khan, that he's the only one who has given so much money for poverty reduction. Almost 200 billion a year. Now just imagine if that money would have been used in the way that I'm describing, what our experience has been. Well, there would have been a tremendous dent in poverty in Pakistan.
Thank you very much, Shoaib Sab, and that brings me to Dr. Masuma Saba. We keep on talking about gender inclusive development, and while we are talking of building forward better, any suggestions from you? How can one make our developmental programs more gender inclusive? And how can we, and especially you highlighted and mentioned about the huge potential that is there among youngsters. So how can we empower all those vibrant, dynamic, and very talented women and our youngsters who are there so that they can work towards a more gender inclusive development? Mute yourself.
Abid, the first and the essential and the basic need of any policy is consultation. And I have seen in the last few years that even at the national level, even at the provincial level, and I wouldn't say that about the local level, but even at the provincial level, the tendency not to consult is increasing. In the days in which I was in active service, consultation was a very essential part of all policy making. You must talk to the people. And there is this assumption that those who are policy makers understand what the people need more than the people themselves, which is really very ridiculous. And in the seminars which we used to host when I was working, when we invited women from the community to come, they were so clear about their needs. And their expression of their needs was so different from the bureaucratic understanding of their needs. So it is very necessary that we should talk to them and not to formulate any policy without talking to grassroots women, because they are very clear about what they need. The argument is that they are not literate. But you know, literacy, I don't think has anything really much to do with awareness of what one requires to move ahead or to get out of this trap of poverty. The basic thing is to consult. The other thing I would like to say is that we must consult younger people. As I told you, in the streets of Karachi especially, and I'm sure it is so also in other parts of the country and in the interior of Sindh, there is so much expression of what people want on the street. I'm sitting, my office is near the press club in Karachi. And every single day, Abid, every single day, there is some gathering or the other, of some interest or the other, of some public interest expression. It is a delight for me to watch it. But the question is that those who are making policy, are they looking at it? Are they taking it into consideration? And especially the women are becoming more and more. Work with Aurat Foundation, and you know, we have also worked in BIST, so has SDPI. Our work with them in Aurat Foundation has opened our eyes to the understanding which these women have of their problems, and you must listen to them to make policy. So I think that is one way of developing gender inclusive policies. Talk to the young women, talk to the rural women. They are very expressive, and then make your policy instead of imposing it from the top. Did you ask another question also? I forgot.
No, this was my question. I'll come to you in the next round about the way forward. Arifa, you are now an overseas Pakistani, and you have also got the right to vote in general elections. And a question that comes that overseas Pakistanis, expats sitting thousands of kilometers away from Pakistan, they have their own wish list, but when you emigrated from Pakistan, you knew the ground realities as well. So keeping in mind those ground realities, any pragmatic suggestion that you would have as way forward?
Yeah, thank you very much for asking this question. I would definitely, I think I would answer it like this, that when you have included the Pakistani, the expatriates to vote, it's very important for us to know that what kind of world they are living in. So when we talk of human rights, climate change, children education, preschool education, and then obviously the Pakistanis living here would like to hear the same in their own country, their motherland. So in my view, the abrupt shift of policy is required to encourage this robust economic change is absolutely important. So in that, the children education becomes a very, I think, a very primary issue which probably we are not addressing, especially we don't talk about their mental health issue in Pakistan. It is really a very ignored subject, and that is obviously causing, in pandemic, children have really suffered, and there is a negative effect, social effect, and the social media that is causing a problem in the youth. You can see many things, many very strange videos we see at times, and this vandalism or whatever you want to call it, or the damaging effect on the youth is in a great deal, which I think should be checked by the mental health in the schools. It has roots from the beginning. And I never saw, even when I was there 2 years back, 3 years back, when I was there in the government, I used to emphasize on it. But I don't think ever that anybody took initiatives for the girl child and for the mental health issues for the children. And if you want, if this is what they're going to inherit in the long run, after 79 years in 21st century, 2100, if they are inheriting this climate change and global warming, they are also inheriting these issues. So how are you going to touch these issues for the future? And I think here in US, in today's world, I think many problems which we face are now basically built around the children, which they want to address, that how this can be helped. And I never hear a voice. I mean, we talk about why US is not helping Afghanistan, why this is not happening. What are we doing in Pakistan? That is very, very important. That's a country which is a developing country. Where are we going? Where are we heading? And what kind of, if there are travel bans, and if there is change in economic situation all over the world, if there is inflation, so what are the new policies we are making? Are we, there is revamping required, and consultants and NGOs and the development sector and government, are they really sitting together to see that what are going to be the future policies, how they are including women in that? And somehow I think these things have really, for me, these are very disturbing. Sitting here, sometimes I see that the peacetime after pandemic is maybe not very near in future. So there is energy crisis, there is supply chain, there are fuel prices, there's energy crisis, there is, messing of different pressure groups, there is opposition, there are other factors. So we are emphasizing all the time on the bigger, larger issues. So to get into the macroeconomics of the world and to be connected to the West, I would say that we cannot ignore West. If Pakistan is thinking that we can ignore West and we can have our own, life cut off with West, it is probably not possible. So what are the initiatives we are taking to engage West and be more transparent in our trade, in our business, in our policies? So to me, I think when you open up and your data, your everything is not hidden, and it is, you face the facts truly, that builds a trust, and that is very important for any engagement with any business community. And Pakistan has a lot of potential. We have youth, we have capable people, and surprisingly, I think the potential has not been used to its full capacity. So I just feel that management of the through the consultants to build the business policy is extremely important. SDPI can play a very good role because your research abilities have been great. So more people or more development sector people like SDPIs, are they really sitting together? Are they really building a futuristic policy in the climate change area? I know that you were there in Glasgow too. You went to, and you were very active always in the climate change activities. But is climate change is really understood? Is the awareness is given? Or we are just thinking that what that country has done, what US has done wrong, or what China is doing and all that, that's not really fine. That is a political issue. But me being a student of politics and studied here too, and then I was also in the practical politics, I still feel that these social issues are pulling us down. And we really need.
Thank you, Arifa. Yusuf. There are quite some positive news from Pakistan as well. It's not that we are not talking to each other as stakeholders. They are not consulted. But yes, of course, we still love to keep on putting our blames on others, especially on West, and that attitude needs to be changed somehow. Shoaib sir, my question is about targeted subsidies. So as you know that now with this IMF program, across the board subsidies, those are being discouraged, and government is asked to develop some targeted subsidies. And one way of targeted subsidies was this scheme where government provided 1,000 rupees for ration, which I said that from today it would be merged in Pakistan card as well. So I agree with your viewpoint that dole is not the permanent answer, but the type of inflation that we are going through with through our growth trajectory in coming days. Any suggestion from you on targeted subsidies? What sort of mechanism can be there? And can social protection be made only through providing cash grants? What about people, 10, 20, 30 people, they can be given collective ownership of a piece of land. They can be given collective ownership of some dairy animals or something like that. So just some innovation in the existing social protection program for targeted subsidies. Your advice on it?
I think what Masuma was saying earlier, consultation. I mean, even if you have to give subsidy and to the targeted people, why not consult them? I mean, I was mentioning that through targeted subsidy, if you're giving a certain amount of money, maybe they can say, all right, especially, you know, individually. I mean, this was Raiffeisen in 1849 who came up with this formula that the poor can never be helped individually. They have to get organized and they have to do something themselves also. So if you consult them, then probably they will come up with something which would really help them not only get over the emergent situation, but it will also be helpful for the future. So that's all that I'm saying. I'm not saying that the poor do not need help. They need help. But ask them what help they need. I mean, I still remember RSP, the first 5 years, the World Bank came to evaluate it. although they have not funded the program. And I was so happy when they said that the first 4 years of this program are the missed 4 years of all World Bank rural development programs. And the reason they gave that we go with the blueprint, whereas this program goes and asks the people. It is a process approach. So I'm only asking, as Masuma was also saying, that adopt a process approach, even if you have to give a subsidy. And let me add something about urban areas also, because you were asking, and I said, because you know, if you look at the urban areas of Pakistan, there is one of the best models, which again was developed by Amidst, the OPP, the Orangi Pilot Project. I mean, what are the urban problems? Sewerage and sanitation, unemployment, health, education. I mean, the only problem with Orangi was that KMC and KDA were asking 10,000 rupees per household for development charges. And they said, we can't afford it. We have built houses worth 20, 25, 30,000 rupees. And then Mr. Khan looked for low-cost solution. And he was able to get Dr. Arif Hasan. And Arif came up with a solution where instead of 10,000, he divided it to internal development and external development. With 700 rupees, the lane people could do the sewerage and sanitation. So, you know, all these things are there in Pakistan. It has been done here, it has been proved. But we don't want to look at it. We don't want to take advantage of it. You have enough money. I mean, the amount of money, as I was mentioning, that this government has given for to help the poor. Honestly, I'm saying there should have been no poverty.
Thank you very much. Dr. Masuma, the same question to you about targeted subsidies. Any advice from you? For example, now the energy is the most debated and discussed thing. And then other day in a high-level meeting, it was discussed that if providing petrol at same price to a motorcycle or chingchiwala and to a Land Cruiser, it's injustice. So how can one actually think of devising some sort of targeted subsidies for those who are plying smaller vehicles, who are plying motorbikes? But again, saying it is so simple, but practically it seems quite complicated. So from your experience, would you like to say anything on targeted subsidy mechanism?
I didn't follow your question.
It was about it is about a targeted subsidy mechanism. Now, as the IMF is pressurizing that Pakistan should move away from across-the-board subsidies, for example, on energy, on petrol, and just identify the beneficiaries and provide them subsidies. So do you think it's pragmatic and practical in our scheme of things? Subsidy on energy, subsidy on petrol, subsidy on utility bills to the target groups, not across the board. So any advice from you?
I think you need any subsidy which helps the common man or the common person. I would go along with that. How targeted you can make it, at what stage it becomes targeted, at what level it becomes targeted is something to be worked out. But I do believe that any policy with respect to subsidy which can make the lives of the common people easier to, because nowadays everything is beyond the reach of the ordinary man. I mean, there's so much inflation and there's so much unemployment. So I would go along with any subsidy which helps the common person, the common man or woman.
Thank you. the floor is open for questions, answers from those who are following us on Facebook, SDTV, and on this Zoom link. So while I'll encourage you to write your comments or questions, from my side, the final question. Arifa, give us some positive news, some ray of hope. The building forward better, of course, we have a huge wish list, but do you see any light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, always. Obviously, this goes without saying. But unless, as I said, there is not an abrupt shift of policy, that is required, and that would encourage definitely a good change in the future. And this really, to me, I think that there is a need that there is enough of, political views people share from Pakistan. I think we need to hear, and we are sitting abroad, that there is development happening, there is good business, there is progressive minds, there are women who are really participating in very, important jobs, and they are making a mark. So these things really are important, and which Pakistan is very capable of. And I really suggest that in this period when all the world is suffering, it's not just Pakistan, but every country has their own litmus test to prove that where are they and what is their policy and how they are going to handle it. It cannot be narrowed down to a very short-term policy. It has to be whatever government is there. It has to be for the long run. It has to be for the, all the times to come. So what kind of policies are there? Even me as being a Pakistani, I don't know. I mean, those should be really transparent, and those should be told openly and properly that these are the problems we are facing, and these are the initiatives we have taken, and then that should be really right. I mean, that should not be just a fantasy, it should be really true. So that is how we definitely, people would be encouraged to go work there. And, I encourage my children to go and, do things over there. If they have studied here, they should contribute. But the thing is that we don't hear a lot, which is extremely transparent. This is my, you can say.
But sitting in America, any positive thing that you hear about Pakistan? It's not that everything is wrong.
At the moment, yes, I hear a lot of positive things. You are conducting this seminar and nice people are sitting here and, telling about all the progress. That's nice.
Thank you. There is a question here, Dr. Masuma, if you can address. So they say that I would like to ask from the worthy speakers that what's the final bottom line advice for the young generation of Pakistan, which presently seem bewildered and disoriented?
Yeah.
The internet is very is fluctuating. What did you say, Abid? I didn't follow.
There is a question on posted online. I would like to ask from the worthy speakers that what's the final bottom line advice for the young generation of Pakistan, which presently seem bewildered and disoriented?
Well, I want to say that it's not just the young generation which is disoriented. I think we are all a bit disoriented especially because of COVID, and also because of, very unfortunate developments within our own region and even within our own country. But yes, I think the young are disoriented and they're also frustrated, basically because of the very uncertain situation with respect to education. they are also disoriented. It's so difficult to find jobs, especially during COVID. Because of that, there is so much violence also on the streets, and all kinds of incidents are reported in which the young are included, are involved. I can only say that their situation will improve when the government and the state, especially the government, introduces policies which are targeted at making their lives better. The government in power, whichever government, this one or the one which comes in future and any other government, must understand that these young people have specific needs. They have aspirations. And they are living in a situation which is becoming increasingly difficult for them. So, as Afia said, I'm also an optimist, a compulsive optimist. But the fact of the matter is that the situation on the ground is a little difficult. I would like to add something, although this is not directly linked to the question you asked, and that is, and it is going to impact their lives, and that is the trend towards extremism in our country. Violence is increasing both within the house and on the street because of extremism and support to extremism. And it is absolutely imperative that the government in power should create an atmosphere in which young people are safe on the streets and within their homes. But if they keep making compromises with terrorist organizations, which are even officially considered terrorists, but they keep making compromises with them, or they keep shaking hands with other extremist organizations and parties, then that atmosphere of freedom and of safety will not evolve. So for young people to thrive, it is necessary that that atmosphere of safety should be enforced so that they don't turn towards crime. I mean, I've heard young people say, there's no livelihood, so what can I do except snatch the bike or snatch the car or snatch a woman's purse? Where do they turn to for an income? These factors should be kept in mind, and in the way forward, it is very imperative, especially for the youth, that they should be prevented from turning towards violence and crime.
Thank you very much, Dr. Masuma. And last question to you, Shoaib. Someone has posted on Facebook that when we talk of community mobilization, we only focus on employments and livelihood. Can't we work on mental health and other socio-psychological problems that the community is facing through resolving them through community mobilization? So is the work community mobilization only limited to income earning opportunities only?
No, I mean, the basic thing is that if the poverty is at the household level, and one of the main reasons for poverty is lack of capital. Now, if you first, I'm not talking that that's the only thing that social mobilization does. It basically prepares them by at least enabling them to stand up because, I mean, if, for example, when I go to the village and I say that, well, if you really want to get out of poverty, then you will have to do certain things first. I mean, it is this whole thing is a development partnership. And in a partnership, there are obligations on both sides. So the obligations that we ask the poor people or the poor women are that individually we can't help them. They have to get organized. And of course, they have to identify a genuine, honest leader amongst themselves. Otherwise, the organization will not go forward. And capital is power, so they should also inculcate a discipline of savings, although they protest that we are poor, how can we do it? And we say any amount. You can even start with a rupee if you want. And thirdly, and this is a question which I've always been very happy to get a affirmative answer, that you have to unleash the potential that you have, which will really improve your household livelihood. And they have always said, yes, we know. And again, the problem is that we don't have. But you know, once they have done that, that all these other things, the multidimensional poverty that you're talking about, health, education, all that, and I've said that. I mean, everywhere where they have become financially solvent, the first thing, their first priority is education. They always send their children to. So it's not that social mobilization is only to generate income. Social mobilization is really through that, to then we can enable them to basically then can do other things also and improve their dimensional poverty.
Thank you. Shoaib Arifa, you wanted to say any last word?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing, that these international conferences are very important. And that is how you face certain realities which sometimes are not addressed in living in a certain region. So when you talk internationally and you engage your youth in the international conferences, it is extremely important, and it builds long-term partnerships. And this is very important as a traveler, like businessman is always a traveler, and a politician or anybody who travels, they obviously make long-term partnerships. So that is now restricted due to COVID. And I don't know for how long it is going to be like that. So I would really suggest that macroeconomic predictions, whatever they are, should be told to the youth. And now expecting too much from the socioeconomic groups, the poor, I think that is not fair. I think that we need to engage them. We need to rebuild them. Honestly, there is a need of revamping the whole policy, sitting together, keeping all the issues, I would say all the issues on a side, and building the future for the youth. That is our goal, and that should be our goal. And that would be a step forward towards development of the country and making a better image. That country is trying to give the right data and the real picture of the, whatever situation they are facing. What happens in the West, especially in US, I've seen that whatever news comes from Pakistan, it should be so transparent that nobody can have a doubt, even a little bit of doubt. So I believe that this needs to be done in media, in schools, in education, everything. And to me, this is also a form of a corruption if we don't give the right news. So it is extremely important to engage with international people, and especially our youth should be part of their whatever seminars, education programs, and we can always, people sitting in abroad should also always help this initiative if Pakistan ever wants to take it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Arifa, Khalid, Dr. Masuma, Hasan, Shoaib, Sultan Sahab. I wish we could have prolonged this discussion, but we need to start our next session as well. And I very much look forward to host all three of you in person when the time permits. Hope Omicron would and all other following variants, they would not be as bad next year when we convene our annual conference, so that at least we could meet in person. So ladies and gentlemen, the three dignitaries and the legends in their own fields that we had invited today. The former parliamentarian, Dr. Masuma Hasan, ambassador, as well as a very distinguished civil servant, Shoaib Sultan Saab, very distinguished civil servants, and of course, we call them Babai Rural Sport, not only in Pakistan, but also in India. One thing that we didn't discuss, that Shoaib Saab's model was replicated in India. He was specially invited by the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, and he actually initiated the rural support programs in India, something that we are always proud of. Now, looking at the crux of discussion, of course, there are, the glass is half full to me. Yes, there are a lot of things that needs to be improved, the half empty glass, but the positive thing that comes is the diagnosis. Diagnosis is very much there, and we know that what is wrong with our system. We know what is haunting our socio-economic development, and how it can be fixed. Shoaib Saab was very confident about the finance that we have spent in the first 3 years of this government amidst pandemic, that if that could have been channelized along with social mobilization, perhaps it could have yielded a better result. But then there are practical problems amid the pandemic. Perhaps it was always the urgency that preceded, and important things in this conflict between urgent and important. Urgency always wins, and important things somehow go on the back burner. All the three panelists, they were also hopeful about the potential, and especially potential among youth. I think it's the next generation and the millennials who have to take this country forward. They are educated, they are confident, they are empowered with the smartphone in their hands. They have access to information. They can influence decision-making through use of social media. But of course, the question comes at how to channelize their energies in a positive manner. And one of the prerequisites that Dr. Masuma Hasan, she rightly pointed out, is making this society a safe place where our girls and our women, they can actually explore, utilize their potential in a better manner. So again, something that needs to be done if we want to build forward better. And extremism, how to take care of this growing extremism, which at times seems to be getting some sort of patronization from our policy mayors as well. I think it is extremely important to curb that extremism. And I would again repeat that if Army Public School incident was brought a paradigm shift in our policy, this Sialkot incident, that should also be seen as a similar event, and it needs to perhaps give us enough jerk so that we can have a paradigm shift, and we can turn Pakistan a place, a tolerant place where all this potential that can be not only utilized, but it can be explored. Thank you very much for your time, and especially to Arifa. I know it's quite late in USA for joining us. And we will compile.
Abid, what happened to Shamsul Mulk? I was hoping to see him.
Yes, Shamsul Mulk Saab is a bit under the weather. So he phoned me and he apologized for not being able to make it to this panel. We were very much looking forward to get his words of wisdom, but he promised that he's recovering, and in a month or so, he would be able to then take part in public consultation.
Do tell him that we missed him.
Definitely. We will
recovered soon.
We will.
Thank you very much indeed for hosting.
जी डॉक्टर साहब
मैं कह रही थी, thank you Abid, thank you so much, and thank you SDPI for hosting this panel. Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And
with this, thank you very much.
Thank you. And with this, we'll formally conclude this panel. Please visit SDPI's website for the next panels, and the next panel would start at 12 p.m. Thank you. Good night, good morning, and good afternoon. Again, depending wherever you are.
All the best to you, Abid. All the best. Thank you.
Stay in touch.
Stay safe.